let's go back to the background of Avid. The essential questions, and Monique and I will keep talking in a moment. What are the foundations, what are the foundations, what are the foundational components of the Avid program? So please correct that. What are the foundational components of the Avid program? So in terms of an overview, when we talk about Avid, we want to talk about it's a college preparatory system. The entire purpose of the program is to make sure that our students gain access to and are eligible for and are persistent in a 4-year university. Why a 4-year university? Yes, sir, and then yes, ma'am.
It's if they go to a 2-year school in order for them to get the right, I guess not the right tools, but just get the right motivation to continue on, to go on to a 4-year.
Okay.
I think you told me once that the success rate of community college is 70%. I mean 30%.
The transfer, successful
Yeah.
transfer, is in the 30 percentile, right? So that's not high. So we want to make sure that we have all the possible, take out all of the possible impediments that are going to be helpful or negative in helping our students to succeed. This is not to say that community colleges don't do a good job, but it is to say that students feel lost because they are so big and the plan gets very confusing. So we want them right there in their 4-year university with the dedicated purpose of being able to graduate and continue onward. What else is it? Direct support structure. We support students directly in making sure they achieve that goal. What else is it? It's a school-wide approach. And when we talk about school-wide, there's the Avid elective, but the Avid elective informs a lot of other things that happen within that entire site. Yes? You picking up what I'm putting down?
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay, so this is the Avid mission statement is to close the achievement gap by preparing all students for college readiness and success in a global society. Can you just highlight that global society business? Will you turn to your neighbor and talk to them about what do you think is meant by global society? What is that? All right. Can someone please share out what is meant by global society, you think?
Ray had a nice one.
Like had a really nice.
It was really nice.
Okay, well there are two.
Oh,
Good.
please, anyone.
You just wanted me to say, I'm taking this from Jerry. I'm probably gonna mess it all up, but here we go. It's society is like all interconnected now, so being able to kind of understand everyone else's like background, like there's different races, just be able to work with people, basically.
What do you think? Did you do a good job? I thought
If he says it, I feel like way worse.
we did not ask you if we thought you did a good job. I asked you a table. What do you think? Did he do a good job?
Good
Yes.
job.
Yes, I think he did a good job too. Yeah. Oh, are we participants welcome to that table. Go ahead.
I think that, or we said that the global society can represent like the students being uncomfortable, and if they're comfortable in their normal society, that they won't grow. They won't be put in a place where they need to think differently, get out of their comfort zone, think outside of the box.
Ooh, it's very personal. I like it. I like it a lot. Anybody else want to share? Yes.
I think I just want to add to what I don't know, but he said something about.
Wait, hold on, time. Tell us your name.
Oh, my name is Carolina.
Yes. Okay. Who's the he you're talking about?
The first
Me?
person.
Okay.
I don't know who's talking.
Okay, guys. Carolina makes a very good point. Please say your name aloud and then your comments as we're getting to know each other. Yes. So Chris or Jerry?
I think it was Jerry.
Okay.
Okay,
Jerry,
so
raise your hand.
Right here.
Okay, I think it's based off of what Jerry said
Okay.
about race, but there's also global society doesn't have to do with race. It has to do with cultural backgrounds and their beliefs and traditions. So there can also be even an age group difference, I believe. And so
Okay, so we're talking about diversity in all of its forms. And then we're talking about societal and personal, right? The outside and the inside. Yes?
Yes.
Good job. Thank you. Oh, are we clapping for each other? I like it. Okay. When we talk about the 6 components of Avid, ladies and gentlemen, we talk about the Avid students, the elective, the curriculum, the faculty, the tutors, and the parents. All of these people work together to achieve this mission. So all of these people, all of these stakeholders are crucial in making sure that our students are supported. And we all play different roles, but the roles are very important. Okay? We'll get back to what those roles are. By now, you should see that, does this look familiar to you?
Yes.
Yes. Only Downey doesn't have tutorials on Thursdays. When does Downey have tutorials?
Tuesdays and Fridays.
Fridays, Tuesdays and Fridays. So notice that 3 days out of the week, they are focused on Avid curriculum. And we'll be talking about what the curriculum is. Yes? And then 2 days in the week, y'all are there working with them
Yes.
and helping to support them. Okay? Any questions? So remember, when we're talking about the curriculum, it includes a segment on writing, strategies for success, organization, reflection, socio-behavioral things. We talk about reading and the ability to read and dialogue critically. We talk about college and careers. And then the tutorials are all of these parts. Okay? So, when all of that is pulled together, at the end of their 4 years, actually it's more than 4 because they begin in 6th grade. Actually now we have elementary. Never mind. At the exit of their Avid program in high school, we want to make sure that we have students who have taken or are more likely to take AP classes. Why?
support and
They have the support they need, and what is it about AP classes or IB classes? Yes. Yes, it prepares them for rigor. Good word. Thank you. We want students who have completed the college eligibility requirements. Why?
college
Yes, so they can go to college. We want them to get into 4-year colleges and university, and we addressed that a little earlier. And we want them to be able to have higher level skills, both thinking and emotional and holistically, so that they can make it for the university and after. Any questions about this? So one of our parking lot questions was, is there a way to remind all of us tutors that we are here for the students? And can you remind us that no student is bad? Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have bad students. This is one of my core beliefs is, please don't ever talk to me about having a bad student. That's not okay with me. We're in the business of equipping students with tools that they don't have in order to succeed. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Please don't talk to me about having lazy students and all of the other deficit theorizing words that sometimes we get frustrated and use about students. We may have unmotivated students to do that task. I guarantee you they're not unmotivated at skateboarding or basketball or video games or cooking or whatever they're doing outside of school. Right? I don't know what shopping. What do people like to do? What do you guys like to do? Yeah? So they're not sleeping. They're not unmotivated at the things that bring them joy and fill them up and fill their souls. They're not lazy at that. Therefore, they're not a lazy human being. What they are is unmotivated about a specific task, probably because they don't understand the why, or probably because they don't know the consequences of what happens when they don't follow through on something. So it is our job to make sure they understand that. And we cannot do our job if we put all of those deficit theorizing words upon our students. The moment, and John, I'm going to use you as an example because I've known you for a while. The moment I say, oh, that John, he's just lazy. What have I already determined in my brain? Yeah. No, not just he's lazy. What have I determined?
That you can't do anything with it.
I cannot do anything about it. And if I cannot do anything about it, why am I one teaching, mentoring, being a role model, tutoring, or engaging with John? That's my failure. Right? So we don't talk about students being bad, being lazy, us not having the ability to make an impact. We have the ability to make an impact. We have the ability to inspire. Now, sometimes do we get frustrated?
Yes.
Absolutely. That is why we have each other. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Because, yes?
Yes.
Because the goal is to make sure that our students achieve that mission statement. Capiche? Okay. Any questions about that? So, can you kind of just have a conversation at your table? I want to look at these parking lot questions. And then I want to talk about what we just talked about. Here are the questions, and I link them together because they go together. What do I do in a situation where a student does not want to partake in the tutorial process? I really like that word, partake. How do we convince students who are not interested to cooperate? How do we get students to ask questions and not just say the answer? I'm going to put that a little to the side, but it goes along the same thing. How do we get shy students to actively participate in the tutorial session? What can we do with students who just won't stop talking? Okay, you have a group of experts who've been doing this. Have conversations around the question of what do we do when students are not engaged? And go. Okay, bringing us back. Yes, Malika.
How are Avid students chosen?
Oh, I just was moving past that section because I was going to go through it next time because I want us to go through tutorials. That's a fantastic question. So let's talk really quickly about who are the Avid students, right? So the Avid student, I went backwards, excuse me. The Avid, there's a particular profile. So this, what does Avid stand for?
Yeah.
What was that? Advancement via individual determination. So, in general, when we are talking about the student, an Avid student is a student who has the potential to go to university, which is pretty much all of our students. They have average to high test scores. The GPA falls somewhere between 2 to 3.5. What does GPA stand for?
Grade point average.
Yeah, you guys know that. Yeah. All right. They have college potential with support. Remember we talked about us being a support structure? In case you didn't know it, but I'm sure you do because y'all are successful students, school has a language all of its own. Right? There are ins and outs, and there are some byways, and there's some pathways. What happens when you or your family or your relatives don't know this language? It is very difficult. It's very difficult. What happens when you don't know that you can get financial aid? What happens when you don't know what the A through G requirements are? What happens when you don't know that you can make up classes? All of these things require support. What happens when you don't feel like you are smart enough to be able to go, even though you are? So all of these things have to talk about, we have students who, they absolutely have potential. We are part of the system that provides that support for them. And then there are students who have desire and determination. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes this word determination is misapplied. Because remember earlier I was talking about those deficit theorizing labels of lazy and bad. Sometimes people say, well, that means they're not determined. Can anyone talk to me about that? What do I mean? Yes, Jay.
They are determined, but sometimes they're also lost. They don't really know. They don't really know where to go. Like they want to get somewhere, but they need help getting to that direction.
Okay, that is very well put. Anybody else? How many students do you know who wake up every morning and include yourself in this and say, man, I just don't want to be successful? How many students really think it? How many students do you know who wake up and say, no, I want to be successful? And then you follow up with, but you didn't do your homework. Right? But I know you want to do this, but there's a disconnect here. There's something happening. So when we talk about determination, sometimes the way that we, the adults, or we, the role models and mentors, look at determination, the external factors of that, sometimes we bring our own assumptions to it. And we have to give people the tools to express what determination looks like. Or how we act out being determined. Mr. Harris, might you have some words to say about this?
No, but I have a little story, and that is a couple of months ago. Someone made a comment to me about some teenagers being lazy. And so I'm kind of an old guy. I've worked with teenagers for a long time, about, I think, 30 years now. And my statement was, I've never met I've never met a teenager that didn't work hard at something. Could be all kinds of stuff. I mean, it could be video games. It could be a lot of different things. But I've never met a teenager that didn't work hard at something. And my comment to that person who said they're just lazy was, the question is, why are they not working hard in this situation? Not that they don't work hard in every situation. So that, I think, would be my comment in terms of a story at this point. And then the other comment that I have is that oftentimes that inner dialogue that I referenced earlier, what we say to ourselves internally, sometimes I think those statements get in the way of success because we are afraid to find out exactly where it is that we need to work harder in order to find success, because success comes with a lot of hard work. And so hence my reference to teenagers working hard. But why is it that they're not working hard in this situation as opposed to working hard somewhere else? The whole lazy conception is just really not helpful in terms of, and it is some way, in some ways, it's an excuse to not talk any further about the subject, rather than looking more in depth at the story behind the not working hard in a certain place.
Thank you. I think that not helpful comment was, I think that's well put as well. Unfortunately, you will sometimes hear teachers saying that student is lazy. That student is that. You don't need to get engaged in that conversation, but you also need to interact with the student in a way that is positive. Yes? And what does it look like to be determined? Do you guys know what it is to be determined? You don't? You are not in university? You are not successful students? I just wanted to know, I said, do you know what it looks like to be determined? And everybody, not everybody, but most people went like this. Most of you went, no, about really, for real, you don't know what it means to be determined? You didn't make it into a college or university? Oh. Oh. You don't go to work and do a good job working with students? You don't actively contribute to your families and the other volunteer things you do? You don't have like 6 jobs? So maybe we need to start looking at how do we define this and how do we allow our students the opportunity to demonstrate this? Maybe we can say, you know, giving up on ourselves when we're doing homework, that doesn't look like you're determined, but I know you can be. Capiche? So when we look at these questions, what do I do in a situation where a student does not partake in the tutorial process? Let's look at the question of relationship. What relationship do you have with that particular group? Because your students will work for you when they have a positive relationship with you. And remember, these are appropriate and professional, yes? How do I convince students when they are not interested to cooperate? Again, what sorts of relationship are you cultivating with the students? Do they believe you do you share part of your story with them in terms of schooling and success? What can we do to students who won't stop talking? This person might really like you in that sense and they just want to keep you engaged in the process. Maybe we need to give them the tools of how to let other people have a say. And we can work on that as well. Maybe we need to give them a little space for them to talk and then we get into the process. Right? I am someone who transitions are really important for me. So when I get home, I sit in the car for 15 minutes before I go in the house. Why? Because I need that mental space to transition. When I move from one thing to another, and I can tell you, if I don't have time to just take a deep breath and do a little dance in the office or something, my brain gets overwhelmed. So maybe you have students who are like that. Maybe you have students who just really need some time to be able to talk to each other for 3 seconds and then pull them back together. A brain break, they call it. How do we get shy students to actively participate? Maybe the way they participate looks different at first. You scaffold for them. Maybe you get them to write it down at first. Maybe you talk to them one-on-one, get them to help someone, get them to write it down, and then they go to the board. Yes? So those are some questions that we can keep going back to. Are there anything else? Is there anything else you want to add to these parking lot questions? Yes? No? Maybe? Ongoing? Okay, thank you. Okay, more about our Avid students. They're usually the first to attend college in their within their families. They're historically underserved in four-year universities. We happen to live in Southern California, and so we often think that our universities around us are highly diverse. When we actually look at the statistics, they're not. Yes? Yes. That's easy to find. You guys can look that up. So we want to look at this. When we talk about socioeconomic circumstances, there are students generally have a background that they're socioeconomically low income. Absolutely has an influence in university and being able to attend. And other special circumstances, which means that students are looked at individually in addition. So does that answer your question, Malik?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. We are running out of time, so I want to go to the tutorial component. We will get to this next time. Okay, so tutorials. I have been popping up in your classes. Raise your hand if you've seen me. Yes, I have been to a lot of your classes. People look at me like this. I'm supposed to be there, folks. You're not in trouble. And sometimes when I come to your classes, I will say something like, Johanna, why is this tutorial not structured like a tutorial? Why are we not sitting in horseshoe formation? How come we're not asking questions? I will say something like, Andrew, why are you speaking at the board? As opposed to the, yes, I'm just throwing out names. Andrew's like, I didn't do that. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes. So I wanted to go back to the structure to finesse and fine tune our tutorials. Again, you will see me, I will show up. You won't know when, you won't know how, but I will be there. What were you going to say, Elaine?
Like Santa Claus.
I am like Santa Claus. I will give to you the gift of beautiful tutorials. So how should tutorials be structured? And while you're getting ready to get to this section, Sarah, do you want to say hi?
Hi everyone.
Some people don't know you.
Oh. So I was an Avid tutor for 5 years. Don't record me, Eddie. Avid tutor for 5 years, and now I go to UCI and I'm doing my student teaching and credentials there and masters. And I just came by to visit everyone and see some new faces.
I'm so excited that Sarah came by. One of the teachers that she used to work with the other day pulled me to the side and he said, why did you take Sarah away from me? Why is she not here? And I said, but she's working on her master's. I'm not keeping her away from you. She's being an adult. She's adulting. So, true or false? True. No, true. Yes, true. Okay, tutors are essential. True or false?
True.
Are you sure?
Yes, I need them too.
You need them too? Tell me more, Johanna.
Oh, I'm having trouble with my maths accounting class, and I listen to my classmates for help, and they actually tutor me, and then it really helps me understand the concept more. So if I need it, I'm pretty sure my students need it too.
Beautifully stated. True or false? Tutors are solely responsible for the Avid tutorial process. It is all on you.
No. False.
Thumbs down if it's false. Anaïd, tell me about that.
I said it's false, but sometimes it feels like that's true.
Talk to me about that.
Sometimes teachers, you'll get into the classroom and they're like, hey, you got it, and you're like, you can help me out, or you go into a classroom and you explain the tutorial process to the students, but if the teachers don't do that in their own classroom time as well, then the students aren't benefiting from it at all, and they just need the support from the tutors, from the teachers, coordinators, the whole school. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. The whole school, the world, Mr. Arias, the universe. Yes, you are right. So what happens when you have a situation where you feel like you're all alone? What do you do?
Talk to your lead. Talk to your lead.
Talk to your lead. What if you are the lead?
Then you talk to your site lead and the coordinator.
Talk to your site lead coordinator. You can always let me know, and we'll strategize for some solutions. Just like we help the students strategize to figure out problems, we'll do the same thing. It is awkward though. It is very awkward when you feel like you have to run the classroom by yourself. If you're ever feeling like that, please let me know immediately. All of you have my number. Text me or email me or something. You should never have the feeling that you're running a class on your own. Capiche?
Capiche.
Okay, my challenge to you is to make sure the teachers you work with know your name. Quiz them politely. Okay? Because sometimes they don't. Yes, and that is because you come in and sometimes they'll step back. But there is a positive thing, is that they think you guys are extremely capable of doing your work, which means that you are. So good job on that. But let's make sure we stay connected, yes?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm talking to the coordinators and teachers about that as well. All right, true or false? Tutors facilitate student access through rigorous curriculum. True or false? Yes? No? True? False?
Can you explain
Hold
a
on,
little
Mike.
bit more?
Hmm?
Can you explain a little bit more?
I mean, I could.
May you?
Yes, oh. Yes, okay, tell me what you need explanation with. Is it a word that's difficult or the whole? Okay, who can tell me what facilitate is? Yes, who said that? Okay, so what if we put the word guide in there? So tutors guide student access to rigorous curriculum. True or false? What do you think, Alexa? True or false?
True.
True?
Yes.
Jay?
True.
Are you sure?
Definitely.
Okay, good. Because it's true. Here's another one. Tutors must be in colleges and universities. True or false?
True.
Yes, that's true. Tutors receive formal training. True or false? Yeah, that's what we're doing right now. This is formal. Oh, Johanna, your cough is communicating something. Tell me what your cough is saying.
Tutors receive formal. This is formal. But we
This is
also
good.
receive informal training.
Yes, tell me about the informal training.
That's in class training. So
Yes.
when we start off, we do have shadowing and you're getting inside. So it's like in the classroom. So I feel like that's it's formal here, but now you're applying it in the classroom. So that's an informal way of training, which at the same time is formal. But if you think about it, it's both.
Oh, I think you made a good argument. Good job. Round of applause. Here we go. Tutors are concerned only about their groups. Yes. You have, when I was going through the credentialing program, they used to say teachers need to have with-itness. With-itness. What does that mean? What does that mean I'm with it?
Yes.
What does that mean? It's not, yes, I'm with it. Like, do you know it? Can anyone maybe tell me what that means? What if I say it's like spidey senses? Yeah, is that a better? What does that mean? That teachers and yes.
It's like when you're in the tutorial group, you need to know what's going on in that tutorial group, like all the way in the back. Like what's the question on? How is the tutor facilitating it? Are the students taking notes? You need to like keep an eye on everything and your ears on everything the whole class.
I know. A moment ago, Chris was like, I didn't know she was standing right there. And I was like, that's because I'm Spider-Woman. Yes. So sometimes you might have two groups. You have to situate yourself and be in a particular way so that you are aware, right? You're constantly aware of what is happening. So that doesn't just count for your site, for your classroom, it counts for your site as well. Capiche?
Yes.
Okay, here's the next one. Tutor service role models. True. I have a question here from the parking lot. Can we get students involved in community initiatives and programs, mentor programs and nonprofits? The answer to that is yes, because part of their Avid curriculum is community service and such. So if you are someone who is fantabulous at this, make sure you're talking to your coordinators and figuring out how to bring a cohesive program together. You can help initiate things at your site. Go ahead and do that. Spearhead it. If that's your gifting, do it. So yes to that. Good question. It's almost like you knew what I was talking to say before I said it. Love it. Love it when a plan comes together. Okay.